Hi, everybody. Karen Moby here with Chris Matishik. And if you read a lot of Chris's articles or watch his videos, you know that very oftentimes, Chris, your stories come from things that you have witnessed yourself, whether you walk into a Verizon store or Best Buy to get a new product and talking to the salespeople, seeing how people interact and make decisions to buy. That's often how you come up with your content here and your observations, which I really like. And this particular story you put together, I find really funny because you talk about a Samsung user set out to buy a new phone, and you watched as she did this. So I'm going to let you walk us through this, what happened, and who this mystery buyer is as well.
Well, the mystery buyer is, as regular readers know, my wife. She has been extremely faithful to her Samsung Galaxy S7, which is, it's such a dreadful heap of nonsense right now. It's slow, it looks awful, it's got scratches all over it. And so I've been gently suggesting, and I think she's actually on board with this, she wants to get a new phone. But the Verizon stores around us are closed right now. So some of the carrier stores are open. AT&T is open, T-Mobile is open, but Verizon, it's very hard to find a Verizon store that's currently around near us anyway, is open. So she said, I need to buy a phone. I'm going to try and buy one online. Now, she's far smarter than me. She's a scientist. But I knew that because she's a scientist, she's not going to just choose on the basis of, oh, that one looks pretty. Not that she, as you realize, doesn't appreciate the pretty, but she likes to really dig into the details of things. So fortunately, we'd been to Trader Joe's at the weekend and we'd got some Sauvignon Blanc for $3.99 a bottle.
Ooh.
And yeah. And so I thought, well, this might take longer than 5 minutes. So I sat next to her. I opened the bottle, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, poured a little bit. And then I asked her to go through the process and talk out loud as if she was lecturing a class, what she was doing and thinking as she was going through the process. And goodness me, aren't we interesting people? Because I was glad it was a fresh bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. Because she got 58 choices from Verizon for an upgrade. And immediately just doing that creates a certain confusion for her because there's so much. And there are brands that she's literally never heard of. Have you heard of Sonim? Neither had I, frankly. But she's going through this. There was Palm. I didn't even know Palm still existed.
She said, Palm Pilot?
Right? Yeah, that's what she said. Okay. That's exactly what she said. So it's one of those where she's going to these brands and then kind of naturally starts gravitating towards Apple and Samsung because she's more familiar with those things, but also because she thought that they offered the best possible ranges and deals. So we ended up with 4 finalists. We ended up with the iPhone XR, the 10R. We ended up with the iPhone 10e, SE 2020. These names, they're terrible. Yeah, yep. Then there was the Samsung Galaxy S25G. And then finally, there was the Samsung Galaxy S10 small e. I think it's a small e. Maybe it's a large e. Yeah. They really just don't have imagination, these phone companies anymore. Anyway, so what then happened was we went through a whole process of my wife going through the details of each phone. So it begins with, first of all, how much? Because she doesn't want to spend a load of money on a phone. And I think she's much more typical now of most consumers in America. They don't want to spend 50, 60 bucks a month. They don't want to spend $1,000, $1,100, even if it's the fancy new phone. I think partly because the fancy new phones, they might be fancy, but they don't look all that different. And they don't do anything more than most phones do perfectly well. So we ended up with the 10R, the SE 2020. And so then it was the 10R got kicked out. Too heavy. Absolutely too heavy. She went into the minute details of how many ounces these phones weigh.
Okay.
So the 10R, I believe, is 6.3 ounces. Honestly, that's a quarter of a bag of sugar. No, it's actually I don't know, more or less. And so she was yeah, not terribly. So that one was out. Then she went for the S20 and she saw how much that was. I'm sorry, the S25G, and no, too expensive. So that one was out. So we were left with the Samsung Galaxy S10e and the iPhone SE 2020, and then one only had the iPhone only had 13 hours of battery life, and the other one had more battery life. But then again, on the other hand, the iPhone SE had 4 stars reviews, and the Galaxy S10e only had 3.7. So it can't be that good a phone, can it? And the more this went on, as she measured her own phone, as she measured her hands, as she went through every detail of storage, of memory, of everything, we reached an interesting conclusion. You'll be pleased to hear after me talking for the last 17 minutes.
And?
Oh, you want to know?
Sorry, I thought you said, here comes the conclusion. You were
Well,
saying,
I was trying to build you up to a bit of drama there.
well, I was just going to stop you and say, how much wine did you drink up to this point? I mean, this had
I cannot divulge safely. No, I'm not that heavy a drinker. I like it, a glass of wine in the evening, but I was sipping, and this whole process, I have to say, took at least 45 minutes.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I mean, if she's even weighing, thinking about how much that wouldn't have been a thought for me. But I like that she was really being that thorough. So
She is that thorough.
yeah,
She had me thoroughly vetted by private detectives, lawyers, you name it. No, I'm kidding. Hold on. Anyway, so we reached a conclusion. She said, "This is no good. I have to go to a Verizon store."
oh, after all that.
And I just went, no, it did. When I say it drove me mad, I mean, no, I love her to bits.
So did she feel like she needed to actually hold it, or she just didn't
Yes.
feel confident enough to make the decision based on?
My wife does not lack confidence, but in this particular case, it's a virtual purchase where she doesn't really know precisely what she's buying, and most importantly, how it's going to feel. At the end of it, I have to say, I have an iPhone XR. I find it too heavy. She's right, because they put a great battery in it that's extremely large and heavy, and you can really feel the difference between it and previous iPhones.
Yep.
So in her case, she said, nope. I have to go to the store. And of course, then the minute the article got published, I had people on Twitter telling me that they'd never met my wife, but they already loved her. And I had people demanding to know the minute she goes to a Verizon store what phone she was going to buy. And I think most significantly, I had a lot of people write to me and say, that's me. That's exactly the process I go through. I go through everything because I want to make sure I'm getting a good deal. And of course, we'll see when we get to finally to a Verizon store, we'll get to see precisely what advice she gets and how much that advice helps her in her decision.
Interesting though that because it hasn't been that long, maybe I don't know, well, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I was in the Verizon store with my son to get a new phone. And when you talked about online, you have all these options, but when you go into the store, I mean, there was really hardly any options given to us. I mean, I guess we could have, asked to see more things, and we kind of had an idea of what we wanted. Definitely weren't as thorough as your wife. But the funny thing is, online, you might actually have more information at your fingertips.
In a way, that's absolutely right. But the one piece of information you don't have is the physical information, the sensory information.
Yep.
But you're right, because of course, when you go to a phone store, the carriers have paid to have prime position in stores, and they try and make sure that you're going to gravitate to them. And then the salespeople may or may not be on a certain incentive to direct you in one direction or another, depending on their personal proclivities or, their commissions.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we've been impressed with the SE for my son. It's been a good purchase.
Does he have small hands?
He does.
Aha.
Yeah. Yes.
4.8 inches, I think.
Well, and if,
something like that.
all the bells and whistles that he needs, or I think probably a lot of us need. So yeah, so that fit the bill for him. Well, all I know is I love your wife already as well. Never met her, just know her through your articles, and like a lot of other people, we're a fan. I'm a fan.
She's very lovable, believe me.
All right. Well, if you have an interesting, comment story about buying a cell phone, you want to share it obviously with Chris, make sure you comment there on his stories. Always makes for great conversation. Chris, I know it's fun to, interact with our readers and viewers as we all have a little bit of different situations when we try to go out and do things like this, but fun to see how much we're all alike too in a lot of ways. So thanks all you guys for watching here today. Make sure you check out all of Chris's articles there on ZDNet.